So I'm Alethea. Once again, I'm one of the organizers for this 1 Million Cups, and typically I'm out on the floor wandering around among all of you with the microphone, managing our Q&A. And today, of course, I'm moderating. It sounds so formal. I'm actually just leading our discussion. So my kind of day job with 1 Million Cups is really to be the coach for this organization. And I only mention that because we're just now coming out of the launch mode. We started on, I think, September the 13th it was. So we've been doing this for just a few weeks, and we are now starting to think about how we can add more value to all of the entrepreneurs who are coming here weekly. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing starting this week is just putting together a small team of coaches to assist me. We are going to be helping all of our entrepreneurs who are coming through to do their presentations. We'll help them to prepare for their presentations. And we're also going to do some follow-up coaching with them as well, just to talk about their feedback, how their delivery went, did they seem comfortable when they were answering their questions, and did they cover all of the key topics that we really wanted them to cover. So my first coach is Matt. Please raise your hand. And I've had several people ask me today already, like, what is my background? So my expertise is really in new business development, go-to-market strategy, and partnership strategy. That's what I do. I've been doing it for a really long time. If any of you have a similar level of expertise, you want to volunteer, please let me know. If you're excellent at public speaking, if you are an executive coach yourself, or even if you just have deep functional expertise or industry expertise, then please let me know if you want to share that with everyone else. All right. Very quiet today. Hello. Wake up. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kick off our Q&A. As Jessica said, please raise your hand if you have a question, but I also want to invite all of you to share your insights as well. Raise your hand if you just have a comment, if you have some experience, if you have a thought that you want to contribute to the conversation. Let's not just limit it to questions, because this is an opportunity for you to be educated by having your questions answered, but it's also an opportunity for you to help educate people around you just based on your own unique perspectives. So ready to get started? All right. So what we're going to do to begin is we are going to have each one of you tell us a little bit of something interesting about yourself. Not about your business, but about you as a person, right? Because we have the rest of the session to hear about your businesses. So tell us something about yourself, then explain what your business does, and then what you do day to day to run that business.
Okay. So something interesting about myself. So I love basketball, so I'm glad basketball season has started. I'm a diehard Warriors fan. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what Steph Curry, and we hope we get another championship this year. But my name is Tiffany Ricks. I am the CEO of Hackware. I like to call myself the chief hacker of Hackware because we build custom software solutions. So we work with brands to build mobile applications. We're building a virtual reality app. We work with brands to build business-to-business applications. So we're truly trying to create partnerships with brands who don't have an engineering team, have this great concept that they want built, so we help the brands do it. So the chief hacker part comes in because I have a team, but I still have to get in there and code. So that's what we are. We're a software development company, and the company is Hackware.
Okay, something interesting about me. I am a natural cheerleader and caretaker, and that has manifested itself in many ways in my life. A lot of people who know me well know that I have quite a collection of animals because my caretaker side comes out in them. I have bunnies, rabbits, and cats, and I adore them all. But that also trickles over into the way I do business, because my employees, I don't really call them employees, they're team members. I care about everybody individually, and I actually love and am so proud when they outgrow me, when they outgrow my business and they move on to bigger and better things. I mean, there's a little sadness when you have a great worker and you're like, oh, they come to me and they're like, hey, Laura, I'm gonna start my own DJ business, or I just bought a bunch of lighting equipment, I'm going into lighting, and being around you has made me realize that that's my passion. You know, I'm so thrilled when they move on. And so that leads into my business, what I'm doing currently. It's called Kudo. It is a network of bartenders and servers that are on demand. So if you're throwing a party, if you're a private individual, or you're a catering company and you need extra staff, you're able to go onto the application, post your job, and see a list of very qualified people come up with ratings, bios, and history, work history, which a lot of people in the service industry don't have that. I mean, we carry around resumes, and it's kind of just like your last, workplace you worked, and that's it. But you kind of have this theory when you go into a job, or you're a new manager, kind of they assume you're an idiot until proven otherwise, which is really sad because a lot of people really love this industry and they give their heart and soul. So in Kudo, we're allowing the people the freedom to grow within the network, to work where they want to work, how they want to work, make the money they want to work, and elevate themselves within that network. And when people outgrow Kudo, I'll be just as happy to see them move on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Asya Haq, and a little something about me. I was actually born in Hong Kong. I grew up there till I was 11, then moved to South Asia, and from there then on to New Hampshire, then Dallas, a little way back to London, then moved back. So I've essentially been going west my whole life, but I stopped. And I'm here now in Dallas, have been in the DFW Metroplex for the last 12 years. And currently, I'm the founder and CEO of Guider, which is a content marketing platform that serves the destination industry, travel, and local marketing. And the reason Guider exists is that many of us are very passionate about experiences and travel, and a lot of us want to, in fact, be like an Anthony Bourdain or a Rick Steves. We want to be somebody that can create and share our experience, which is very unique, through a destination, and that's what Guider allows you to do. It allows you to create and share a better destination story using more of a mobile-first and social-ready content marketing platform. It's been a lot of fun to launch it, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the interesting things from my co-panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, when you talk about your businesses, I think it's clear to all of us that you are doing something that you're very passionate about. So I would like to know what in your day-to-day responsibilities really take you outside of your comfort zone, because there's always going to be more responsibilities that you have to take on as a business manager. For people who like to code, you won't code every day. We do have a P&L to manage, right? There's so many other things that you have to do, and you oftentimes aren't able to outsource or even hire staffing to begin with. You'll have to take on some of those responsibilities yourself. So what are you uncomfortable with, and how are you managing that?
So running my company, pretty much uncomfortable every day, which it's great. I'm embracing it. It's helping me to grow and our company to grow. And one of the areas where it's just a daily battle is when I'm an introvert. And so like when I'm traveling to a new city that I don't know anyone, or to a conference where I don't know anyone, or a networking event where I don't know anyone, how do I get the room to know about hackware when I like to be in my internal self? So I have to sort of step outside of my comfort zone and share with those when I prefer to be inside. So how do I do that? I always try to come up with what I call a scalable way to network. So I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way for me when I go into a room where I don't know anyone to get everyone to know about my business and come to me so I don't have to come to them. And a good example was when I was in San Francisco earlier this month. I went to a conference. I was with some of the brightest minds in the world, very intimidating, and they had an opportunity where they had 2 slots where they wanted someone from the audience to get up and speak. First hand went up because that was my ability to scale and network, meet everyone in the room, tell them about my business. And after I got up, told them about my company, that thing happened where everyone was coming to me. So it took me, it helped me to navigate in an uncomfortable situation in a way that is authentic to my personality. So that's how I navigate that space.
Well, I have a different question for you, Laura. Okay. I don't like just going down the line and everybody answer the same question, so I apologize. I'm not your traditional moderator. I like to laugh and have a good time too, so if I don't have any jokes, but if I say something, that seems a little off script, it's because I don't have one. So I'm going to I'm going to ask Laura something else. Business plans. Business plans, it's one of the things that causes a lot of entrepreneurs to kind of delay launching their businesses because you get so intimidated by the idea of putting something on paper. So I really want to know from you, Laura, 12 years in catering, now you're doing something that's related, but it's kind of tech focused, it's an app. How many versions of your business plan did you create before you launched Kudo, and how often are you updating it, if at all?
That is a very good question, and one when I read the question, I was nervous to answer because quite honestly, I have never written a business plan. I tried one time back when I was doing Laura's events. I read a business book that said, you're never going to be a success if you don't have a plan and you don't follow that plan. You'll have no direction and you're just going to fail. So I thought, oh my God, I've got to write a business plan. So I tried. It felt very unnatural, uncomfortable, and ultimately I just ended up putting it aside and getting back to the business that I knew, and that is where my success came from. Now with Kudo, we follow our why. We've indicated our why, and we communicate that daily to everybody on our team. And as long as you have identified your why and you are very familiar with your business and you know the industry, you're going to be fine. Because, it's fine to predict what might happen, but to be able to pivot and change, and trust me, we've had a lot of pivoting with Kudo lately. And it's, at first it's like, oh my gosh, we have to do this now because this isn't working. But you come to embrace it, and those moments where you realize that something's not working are great lessons. And they're aha moments. And at first it seems like a travesty. It's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But you come up with a solution, you keep moving forward. So that's
Thank you. I think that's good advice, too. I think everybody should at least have that perspective that it's not a requirement, for sure. Followers, social media. I took the time to go on everyone's LinkedIn page, learn as much as I could about them, connect with them, go to their company websites, and these women have thousands of followers. And I want to know, Asia, for sure, you certainly have in the thousands of followers. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are your tactics? How do you achieve the level of visibility that you have across social media?
Well, it's interesting because even though I have a marketing background, I've never really studied the topic of social media following. In fact, it was kind of uncomfortable for me when I first put myself out there. I think I'm still from that bridge generation where putting yourself out there in such a public way can sometimes be uncomfortable. I'm used to being very head down, getting things done. So I think the way I approached social media was more the way I approached my own life, which is I talk about things that I care about and that I have subject matter expertise on. And so it's not everything that's being shared. It's things that are relevant to my field. So I'm passionate about marketing. I'm passionate about the world, in fact, of technology and the future of technology. And I always read and share things that I find interesting. I guess I'm curating content that I think is interesting. And when you do that and you share that with an audience, they kind of discover you because you have something in common. Just like if you walk into a room, you have more in common with one person than another because you share common interests or passions. So I would say that it's a very imperfect art in that way, that I haven't studied hashtags or studied how to game following. I can't believe people pay for followers. I think that's the scariest thing on earth. I really focus on being able to share meaningful information that creates engagement. And this is actually a lesson, even if you look at how brands or marketers will look at you as sort of quote unquote an influencer in your social media world. They're not looking at the absolute number of people that follow you. So it's great, for example, to have thousands or millions of followers, but it's really from a data-driven perspective, it's the difference between the people that follow you and the number that engage with you. So it's about engagement. And so you could have 100 followers, but if of those 100 followers, 50 of them meaningfully engage with everything you post and then reach out to you, you're probably far more successful than somebody who has thousands of followers but zero engagement. So I think it's a great question, but I also think it's an opportunity to feel good about what you're doing on social media, regardless of the number of absolute followers you have, if you see comments and engagement from others.
I agree. Thank you. And I do want Laura to ask this question because I know that Laura doesn't do any marketing. She told me that earlier today, and I've been told by more than a couple of people that she has one of the most successful startups in the DFW area. So tell us, Laura, like, I know it's word of mouth, but what else? Like, why are so many people engaging with Kudo right now?
Well, we're all very passionate about it. My marketing person actually, right there, Brady, walked in. He's on our team. He's actually he's an integral part of this. I mean, we're all very passionate about what we do. We talk about it daily. We're very plugged in, very involved. So it's on our mind all the time. So it's not just when we're going to marketing events, people engage us and we talk. But like she said, that social media as well, very personal things that we post. We don't pay for marketing campaigns. I just engage people and reach out to them, congratulate them on their successes as well, and then post our successes, and it kind of just, it spreads, Yeah.
Let's talk about timing. That's another thing that keeps people from moving forward, right? Because you have your own kind of personal responsibilities. You have responsibilities to your family. Perhaps you're in a career that you feel very comfortable in. You've been with someone for 6 years, or how many years were you with your company, MBO? So, and you get into a comfort zone. You're like, oh my God, I really want to start my business. Is it now or never? Should I wait? What's the right time? So, Asia, back to you on this, because Asia was the chief marketing officer at her company. So that's quite an accomplishment already. Congratulations to you. It's a very high-level position, high visibility in most corporations. And she left her company, started her own company, but retained her employer as a client. So how did you know that it was time to leave?
I think if there's entrepreneurs in the room, you know that we have this little bug, like we cannot help ourselves, we just want to be entrepreneurs. And despite all the best logic of staying in a comfortable, well-paying, influential position, there's something that bothers us enough that we feel we want to go fix it. And that's been a thread throughout my career, both in my years at Pepsi, because I left Pepsi in a similar way and had a similar format of re-engaging with them, and then with MBO as well, where I've stayed connected to that company. I think what happens there is that you have to really look at what is that sort of process or window where you can figure out that the nexus of all these things in your life is going to come together the right way. So the first thing you look at is, do I really have a burning need or desire to do this? Because if you don't, just don't. There's no point, because it's going to be really tough and it'll probably fail. The second thing is, do I have the means or resources? And that's just frankly a very practical, financial sort of equation. Both the times that I launched companies, we sat down as a family. The first time I had a 1-year-old and was in my early 30s. The second time I had older children and we were a lot more settled. But in each case, we did a financial equation as a family and said, how can we do this in a way that isn't going to cause discord in our lives as a couple or as a broader network, isn't going to impact our own goals and obligations to each other as a couple or to our family. And you make choices. So maybe you don't have the bigger house, or maybe you don't have that certain car, or maybe you are comfortable with trading off public success for private pleasure of starting a business. You need to figure that out for yourself. Nobody can help you do that, but it's a very, very important thing to consider. The third is that I believe, and I really feel passionate about this for women, and I've talked about this many times to women that I coach or mentor. We have windows of opportunity in our lives. The window is not always open. It is not always the right time to launch a business. So recognize that. And if it isn't the right time, be comfortable with that and continue to build your skills or your wealth or your kind of marketable expertise. But when it is the right time, recognize that and grab it, but know what you're getting into. Know that there is no guarantee of success. So for me, it was always a very considered thing. So as I said, personal, career-wise, and financial. The reason that I was able to retain connections with, let's say, a former employer or a former professional network is because I was always very honest with the leaders that I worked with and said, essentially, please help me do this. Help me to make this move because this is the right move for me. here is a plan for how I can help you with this transition. And that's what I did when I left the market CMO position. I sat down with my CEO and said, I think you have outgrown the need that I provided, and here's a plan for how you can continue to do what you're doing. And I believe it's the right plan for your business, and here are my goals, and here's how I'd like to move forward with them. So it's almost like having an honest conversation with your employer. You remain friends and you remain allies.
Oh, nice, thank you. Tiffany, you're in the tech space. It's always changing. Like, how did you know when to jump in?
Know when to jump in.
Yes, because you have an idea, you sit on it for a while, and then you're like, oh, that boat just passed. Now what am I going to do? Right? It's like everybody's doing that now. Everybody's building apps. I know that, you're building an incredible software platform yourself or a group of people to build. Right. But like, how did you feel like I'm in and I'm going with the flow and the timing is right for me in the tech space? It's different than travel, right?
Right. And I think I would sort of disagree. There really isn't a right time. You just have to have this passion and really go forward. And so when you talk about when is the right time to launch a technology platform, really, my advice is to not do what everyone else is doing. Try to figure out, look and see what the trends, see where they're going, and try to build something around that. But really, you want to build something that you're passionate about. And then you'll figure out, okay, what technology platform, how could I package this thing up in a tech space where it is innovative? So there isn't a right time. Just follow your passion. And maybe have some financial backing around that, but I don't think there's just a right time. It's just go for it. It's something that it won't let go of you. You dream about it. You can't sleep, and you just have to go for it. So that's my perspective.
Well, Tiffany did just mention trends. Again, I don't have anything prepared for that, but I have a question now since you mentioned that. Yeah. So oftentimes we do start businesses based on trends. Like, remember when the iPod came out years ago, and then we had the iPad and the iPhone. How many businesses started with the letter I? It was like, I know some of you search. Who went on and looked for a domain name to start their company with the letter I? Anybody? Somebody did. I know you did. Somebody did it, right? I don't know how many searches there must have been on Google or some. You did it too, Katrina. You're over there smiling. Somebody did it because it's like, oh my gosh, if I have a business that starts with an I, it's going to be successful. And the same thing is true now with augmented reality, right? Very close to that. It's part of my work at Microsoft. Now you see people integrating AR. Then it's got to be VR, even when it doesn't make sense. It's just you feel like I have to have a virtual something. It's a virtual cleaner from my house. How does that work? I don't know, but it's AR. It's AR, so it's going to work. So I want to know, how many of you are really influenced by the trends? Maybe it's for you, Laura, because you've gone from traditional catering and event planning to now it's all digital. So are you doing that because of an industry trend and you see an opportunity, or is that your passion?
Well, hospitality is my passion. And what happened was I wasn't looking to get into tech at all. I know nothing of tech when I started this a year and a half ago. I literally just had an issue. We had partnered with a company called minibardelivery.com, and we helped promote them for about a year, and their download rate was awesome because we had our bartenders literally handing out free alcohol, and everybody loves free alcohol. But they had only launched in 2 cities. One was New York, and the other one was Dallas. In New York, they hired a traditional catering company who were licensed to serve alcohol. That company was not a promotional company. They literally were just slinging drinks, and people were drinking and walking away without downloading the product. In Dallas, I had already got into the marketing through different companies, Cartier, Land Rover, so we were already hiring models and actors who had promotional backgrounds and knew that not only were they there to hand out a beverage, but to actually promote the product. So they called us about 6 months in and they said, we don't know what you guys are doing in Dallas, but the download rate for minibar is great, the use case is great. And I told them, I was like, because we're actually marketing the product. And they said, well, we have an idea. Would you guys like to be featured as a product on the app? And I said, what do you mean? Because the alcohol comes within an hour. You order it, and within the hour, you have a bottle of liquor at your workplace, your home, wherever you need it. And I'm sitting here thinking, I can't produce people in an hour, fully dressed, ready to go, with their equipment, ready to work. And they said, no, you tell us when they can be there. And I said, well, if I had a 24-hour notice, I could most likely have you great staff wherever you needed them. So they said, okay, done. It's a done deal. They put them on the app. We immediately began working all over the state of Texas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Fort Worth, and Dallas. I managed those cities successfully with literally a spreadsheet of people who were available and my cell phone. So every time an order came in, I got a text message, hey, you have a minibar order. And I was like, oh my God, it's in Austin. So I would literally spend hours just calling and texting, are you available? Are you available? And typically it was a 24-hour notice because it said right there on the app, they could be there in 24 hours. So I felt extremely obligated to get them there. So one night in particular, it was a Friday night. They'd ordered somebody for the next day. That client was actually ended up calling me from beyond the app and say, okay, now who's coming? Are they male? Are they female? What's their background? What's their history? And at first I was a little concerned. I was like, no, you realize you're ordering a real bartender. This is not an entertainer. Because they were even asking for pictures. And I was like, she's an attractive girl who knows how to bartend. It's going to be fine, you know? And ultimately, you know, the gentleman told me, he's like, okay, I'm not trying to be weird. He's like, I'm new to this whole on-demand thing. We're having this event in our home. I just want to know who's coming and how well you know this person. And I go, okay, that makes sense. I ended up not closing that sale. He's like, you know what, this is all just a little too much. And that was done. I ended up very frustrated that evening because I had spent hours working on this. And my sweet boyfriend at the time watched me become frustrated. And he said, you know what, why don't we create something to where we have visibility of who's there for everybody, like profiles, bios, and that way the client has access to know who is coming. I mean, we owe them that. And I knew Minibar was not in a space to do that. They had a limited tech, and they just wanted to be an alcohol provider. They literally, I was like, if they wanted to do all that, they wouldn't have hired a staffing company. So that's when we began to build Kudo. So it really came out of necessity, not because I wanted to jump on the tech industry. It was a real problem that night that was super frustrating, and that's where the idea came from.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to transition over to the audience here in just a second, so I'm going to hand over the microphone to her. But while we're doing that, I would like for Asia to answer one question. She does a tremendous amount of traveling all over the world, and I would really like to know from her, because she does have a habit of recording her insights and thinking about the future, what are some of your predictions about just the trend of women in entrepreneurship here in the DFW area in comparison to that in other parts of the world?
Well, I think DFW is extremely well positioned, and just if you compare it globally from an entrepreneurship city or really metroplex perspective, right? So one of the pieces of data that I look at as I look at sort of future trends is the rising urbanization around the world. So, you know, today about 50% of the world's cities are urban, 49%. That number is going to rise to 70%. We're going to become urban sort of mega cities and metroplexes. And that's going to create opportunities and challenges. And I think DFW has actually positioned really well to be on the positive side of that spectrum, where we have the ability to grow north, south, east, west from a sort of a real estate perspective. We're lacking a little on infrastructure around transportation, and I think that's a big issue that we probably need to address. But we have an affordable cost of living. We have a strong sort of presence from corporate, both very large Fortune 100s down to mid-size and small businesses, a culture of technology, and a highly educated workforce. So when you look at all those things and you look at them together, then I think this is a great city for any entrepreneur, you know, female or male, that has a certain degree of expertise and then needs access to affordable places to house their workers, talent to hire for work, and essentially the ability to attract talent to them, let's say global talent, because this is a city that's a great place to bring a young family, raise a family affordably, right? So why is HQ2 happening for Amazon, or why are other cities struggling with their tech workers like Silicon Valley? Because it is no longer affordable to live in those cities. So that's a very practical reason that I think DFW is very well positioned. for the future of entrepreneurship, I can tell you that personally, 12 years ago, when my husband and I considered moving here from Chicago, the math that we did was the math around, can one of us not have an income for a certain number of years, still be able to do the things that we want to do as a family, like have a home and live in a safe neighborhood, and be able to start a company? And the answer is yes. And this is the second time that I'm doing it with Guiders. That was my first business. Alumrise was my first startup. And for that, I raised $600,000 working out of a home office in Plano. So yes, this is an absolutely fantastic place for women to launch and start and grow a business. I do believe that there's all sorts of Dallases. I don't know what the right way to say that is. The culture is completely different depending on which part of the Metroplex you're in. And so recognizing whether you're going to be successful with downtown as your nucleus, or whether you're somebody who in fact wants to connect with a different type of entrepreneur in a different part of the broader region, you know, whether it's Denton or it's Irving or it's Plano, Frisco. I think that's very important to self-evaluate where you're most comfortable, because what I have learned is, especially for women, that there are some perceptions when you walk into the room that you have to encounter and deal with, and you need to be very comfortable that you're putting you're most comfortable in your own skin. So find within this broader Metroplex the community that best fits you. So I'd say big thought, like, you know, future of work, urban megacities. Dallas is well positioned. And then personally, I believe it is a great place to launch a business.
Thank y'all. So we're going to switch, as Malethea said, to the question and answer portion. So if you have a question, raise your hand and I will bring you the mic. Hold it until you finish. That way, if there's a follow-up dialogue, you are ready to go. Okay. I'll start right here.
Well, I noticed that a good part of the audience is female. Certainly everyone that's on the panel is. And the business that I represent was founded by a woman. So everything that I see indicates that there's a very little money that is available to women entrepreneurs. And how do you address that? And how did you overcome some of these types of problems?
Well, for Hackware, we were very strategic. We're a bootstrap business, and it was by choice. I love the ability to solely own my company, make all the decisions that I want, and I'm okay with. We have had rapid growth, but I'm okay with maybe some slower growth, because we have to be very, very mindful on how we utilizes the resources that we have. So we started out very small in my home office with 2 engineers, using savings, all of my savings, and we check things 3 times before we actually make a purchase. Every engineer that we hire, there's a purpose for them to for them to work with us. And now we have 6 engineers. We have an office in Richardson. We're about to hire 3 more engineers, and that's all off of a bootstrap business, and solely did want to get into the venture investment space.
Does anyone else want to answer that question? You don't have to. But.
Okay. Well, I mean, with us, we took a seed round of $120,000, so that's not a lot of money. But I've heard many times, and I truly believe that the fastest way to failure is having too much money right out of the gate. Because, like she said, every decision we make is very strategic, and we're very mindful of where we spend our money and what direction we want to grow and spend it appropriately.
I've thought a lot about the capital question, because the minute you have a business opportunity that is large and exciting, that is the next kind of hurdle. Should I or should I not take venture capital? How do I feel about like sharing control, or about growth milestones that come from outside my own personal comfort zone? And so I've examined it both ways. With my first startup, we did take capital. It did help us grow, and it was a good decision for that first startup. With Guider, I felt personally that I wanted to self-fund it. So very similar to you, I was really more interested in building a true business authentically and knowing its growth levers before promising to somebody else that it was going to grow at a certain rate. So I think we joked about this, right? Like appropriate words, but there's just a lot of bullshit. I'm sorry. In fundraising, I mean, there is just people that will tell you things that are untrue, and they will tell you them every day again and again, and they will succeed. And I think there's a lot of women in the room that just are not comfortable with that. And so we're willing to trade off the idea of this hypothetical exponential growth that sort of the VC dialogue requires, because we don't believe it. We're just told you're supposed to say it for, well, let's figure this out ourselves. The cost of building a startup has dramatically declined. So if somebody tells you that they need $500,000 to launch a startup, you already know that they're wrong, because you don't. You need access to very efficient, low-cost software tools. Most of what's done well in business today is relationship-based, so if you have the network, you don't need capital to access that network, and it is more about sustainability. So that's kind of my perspective on the fundraising side of the house.
Great, thanks y'all. Matt, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, real quick. Who's the biggest influencer in your business life, and what do they teach you?
Well, I think as entrepreneurs, we have a responsibility to constantly grow and learn. So when we started Kudo, I immediately sought knowledge, and that knowledge was through podcasts and books, and just really plugging into listening how other people made their success and learning from their mistakes as well. So I would say that I don't have a single huge influencer, but there are so many great, so much great information out there. And if you want to be a success, search that out. There's free books. I mean, I listen to Audible and things all the time because I'm constantly on the go. I'm a doer. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm constantly in motion. So it's hard for me to find time to sit down and actually open a traditional book, but I put headphones in, I take my daily walk, and I'm just constantly learning and pulling information and applying that.
My greatest influence is my father. So he remains a serial entrepreneur, and he started his first business when he was 18 years old. He'd left home and went overseas and started trading and built a very successful business by sort of getting on the road and going and just finding an opportunity. I mean, I think I last talked to him, he was in Madagascar. I mean, he just hasn't stopped. Like, he just moves all over the world. So I think maybe that you realize that you're shaped by your parents, and you don't realize that you are until you look back and then you see that thread through your life of, oh, well, this is why I'm a travel entrepreneur. It wasn't accidental. So that's mine.
Okay. Do you have a question? I don't want to force you.
So each of you have a very different type of business. What are your business models, and where's your cash flow come from?
So our business model, we basically, our business model is, there are three things that make us successful. So the first thing is we have a lean way of doing development. We focus on an agile Scrum development, but we really try to get our clients' approval every step of the process, have a transparent way of development. A lot of our clients come to us because they've been burned from doing development overseas, and the work just didn't come out the way they wanted. They have hired an engineer that they thought had a level of professionalism that could do the work, and then end up doesn't call them, no emails are returned. And so we really try to focus on being transparent, being their partner, walking them through this process. The other thing that is a part of our business model is once we deliver software, we realize that there's a whole piece of making sure you have the maintenance and you're maintaining it. And so we are one of the only companies that offer a rollover maintenance plan. Like you hear with the cell phone, a rollover cell phone plan. So you buy a certain amount of hours to do modifications, security updates. Well, if you don't use them that month, you don't lose them with us, it rolls over. And then the last thing, data analytics, that is the biggest thing that a lot of companies miss, and that is truly the future. People talk about virtual reality, and they talk about mobile application and all of this stuff, but truly it's about collecting the data and understanding who's using your platform, understanding their behaviors. And so with every piece of software we release, we offer a free package where we're giving them that data analytics piece so they can, whenever they see fit, can make better business decisions on who's using their technology. And as far as revenue goes, like I said before, we were bootstrapped, now we're revenue positive, where every dollar that comes in, we reinvest it back into our business. So it's a slower approach when you think about venture-backed and then using those funds to scale your business. But for us, that revenue investment back into us, it's a slower approach, but it is a meaningful way. We see the results and can gear our business based on that.
Do y'all, either one of y'all want to answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So our business model is truly an on-demand. We are not subscription-based. It is a free app. You only pay for what you use. We retain a percentage of that. It's on the back end, so the clients really don't see it. The servers know what they're getting paid. The other side of the platform knows what they're paying for that service, and we retain a portion of that. So very much like Uber, Airbnb.
Our model is based on a software as a service model, so we have a free ability to use the content marketing platform to create content. However, we have membership/subscription by business size, whether that's an individual content creator at $99 all the way up to corporate creation, which could be north of $10,000 annually just for the software, and that is a recurring annual revenue. We also have a secondary revenue stream that has to do with content creation on demand. We've learned that a lot of our clients love our platform for creation, but also like the way that we create content ourselves. And so that's created a secondary stream where they're asking us to assist them in evaluating writers and content creators and actually charging for creation on top of the rental of the software.
Great, thank y'all. I think we're going to do a couple more questions. Kim, I saw you.
I took a few notes. So one of my questions, I'm a transplant to the community, and when I'm out in the field, I observe that the competition is fierce, especially in Frisco. I work in Frisco. So you ladies, I'm just curious, do you guys have much competition? I know you guys are all three different. How are you distinguishing yourselves? I know Kudo said word of mouth, and they do a lot of personal posts, and then I heard meaningful engagement, but just kind of, if you guys can dive a little bit deeper into that, I'd love to know.
Right. Well, we've done a lot of research in our market, and we have no direct competition. There is a couple of on-demand networks for the service and hospitality industry, but they are straight W-2 hires. There's no bios, there's no visibility for the actual servers. People just pay a subscription. They say, okay, I have an event I want to post, and then they still get 10 warm bodies or however many people they've ordered. There's no insight into who is coming, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, none of that. So no, right now we do not have any direct competition, and we're going with that. It's also, still people are still finding, they're still going to Craigslist a lot to find jobs, and that's kind of scary because they don't know if they're going to get paid, or then on the manager side, they don't know if people are actually going to show up because they have a fear of where are they going to track down their money. We handle everything on our network. So when you post an event with Kudo, all the information's there. Everything's very transparent, is what you were saying. They're able to clock in and clock out and get paid within 24 hours. So we are leading the market by infusing trust and accountability into a market that is very volatile, and we need that.
So the software industry is a saturated market. I was actually talking to my mentor yesterday, and he was saying I get 7 emails a week from a software developer wanting to build something for us. And so this is a space where we truly get nerdy about on how do we differentiate ourselves from our competitors. So every week we spend an hour, do a market analysis just to see who are our competitors. We call our competitors, and we don't say that we're a software company, but we want to know their pricing. And when we put a proposal out, like when a brand wants software built, in our proposal, it will have that transparent information where it shows, okay, here's our pricing. We offer flat rate pricing, and then here are some of the competitors on our same level. Here are their pricing, their prices. So this is just a weekly thing for us. We look at what they're doing, and then we just always are trying to do better. So that's why we learned and we noticed that the maintenance piece, that's one thing that our competitors are sort of missing, and we decided to create a program around that. And for us, the way we became successful is just truly getting out there, building a relationship with our clients. We have a lot of outreach programs where we're working in the community. We're working with students to understand the importance of coding. So we truly try to just be an active member in our community to try to beat our competition.
Okay, I'm going to take probably 2 more questions.
Hi, my name is Katrina Moore. We have a women entrepreneur panel, and so you all tell us what you believe women bring to the table in terms of entrepreneurship and perspective that's maybe different from the male perspective.
Okay, I'll quickly touch on this. Really, so I guess I'll say, like, my perspective is, why are we talking about why is this a question of women being important to the workplace? I mean, it's apparent. When you think about just a team and having that diversity and complementary skills, that just all makes sense. Like when I talk about, I love sports and I love basketball, and every position on that court, it's a meaningful position. And so when you have a point guard, now I'm going to talk about sports because it's going to relate in a minute. When you have a point guard defending a power forward, you think that that's a mismatch. And why is this actually happening? So when you think about a workplace or a tech team that doesn't have a female entrepreneur on it, women entrepreneur, we are master builders. We are strategic thinkers. And we are awesome collaborators. And so it's crazy to think when a team doesn't see that, having a woman or having a minority on their team, they're at a disadvantage because they're at a mismatch with the company that gets it. So I just hope that we get to a place where it's just normal. I mean, companies are seeking that diversity. They're seeking women. They're seeking people that are just different, because it's all about making sure the different positions are strong, they're able to compete so they can win.
As far as what women bring to the table, I think, like she said, I have a question too as to why we're constantly at odds. I don't like it when it's like men against women, because we need each other. We really do. We bring different strengths, and it's better when we all work together, definitely. And like I said earlier, with me, I'm a natural caretaker, and I think a lot of women are. We're very supportive. We're cheerleaders. We want to see our children succeed. We want to see our husbands and spouses and our friends succeed. So with Kudo, a lot of reason why I've built this is because when I had my company, Laura's Events, like I said, people would stay with me for 8 to 10 years plus. This company is, Laura's Events, it lasted for 12 years. So in that, I watched people grow, and I helped foster and create an environment in which they could succeed and outgrow me. And when that happened, I was thrilled. Like I said, I was just so honored that they were with me in that moment and they saw opportunity and they were able to grow in the environment that we provided. So I think women definitely offer that and so much more, so much more.
I think it's interesting because you don't want it to be the question, but it's a question that comes up. I think that data shows, when you look more at a national level around venture capital data, very little capital goes to women-owned businesses. However, from a data perspective around performance, women-owned businesses perform phenomenally well. They're well managed. They grow well. They don't always reach the same threshold, meaning you'll probably have more businesses that are, for example, under $1 million in revenue. There might be more businesses that are run by men that reach higher revenue thresholds. But when you look at the actual economics of how investment performs, women-owned businesses actually do very, very well. So I think that what that tells us is that women have, as business owners, not women just as individuals, but women business owners, tend to control and manage businesses well for the metrics that an investor would look at, meaning cash flow, employee satisfaction, controlled growth, marketing expenditure. I mean, the things that you just would look at on a balance sheet and say, okay, is this a solid business? Is this a business that I could put capital into and grow it? Whether or not, when you look at the growth side of the house, I think women are still at a disadvantage. And I don't know if that is because they want to control the growth, or it's because, I don't know the answer to why. Is the why because of capital? Is the why because of something that has to do with how women prefer to control and grow their businesses? I think we're all kind of trying to figure that out. There's no real clear answers yet.
Awesome. Thank y'all for that. So I'm going to allow one last question, and then I'm going to kind of wrap it up because I know it's getting a little bit late. So last audience question.
Hi, my name is Reddy. I kind of agree with you. I looked at the data. Women-owned businesses, our performance is better than men. I completely agree with that. So my question is, there are 3 aspects: marketing your business, serving your customer, and working on improving your process and service. So what do you think as a business owner, especially not the startup, but the revenue positive business owner has to spend time on, and what actually you're doing?
I would say that Guider is very much a seed stage company. I can speak to previous businesses. I think both these ladies are probably at a later stage with their current businesses. But I would say that the number one thing that I continually struggle with, and I think companies need to invest in sooner than they think, is sales. We're very, very good at everything else, and sales is uncomfortable. And sales is the lifeblood of a business, and it's a very different skill set than the skill set of an inventor or creator. And so it is the number one reason sometimes that businesses don't move beyond that initial stage, because they haven't found the sort of sales/business development growth engine that is coupled with their product that helps it to be communicated. And sometimes that just doesn't work coming from the founder/inventor, because their way of looking at their business and their way of looking at their metrics is entirely different. It's uncomfortable for them to sometimes position what they need to position to grow. So I'd say that is the one thing that I continually think I should spend more time on.
For me, I spend a lot of time recruiting. It's important to get the right people in the right position. So for us, it's engineering. Like, we got to find the best and brightest minds, convince them why working at a startup is better than working at, some of the corporate companies around here. So that's where I spend a great amount of my time. And then some of the things that I sort of shy away from because they are uncomfortable is some of that back office stuff. So making sure that the financials are in place, spending time on the marketing piece. Like I said, looking at the competitors, looking at our market analysis. all of that stuff is stuff that I try to put in my day, but really the most important thing right now is recruiting and retaining the talent, making sure the talent that we have is working well together, happy working at a startup, because it can get a little bit crazy working inside a startup. Everything moves so fast. We have so many moving parts, and just making sure that the team understands what the mission is. The culture is fostering innovation, because that's what's important to us. So it's really centered around the people for me.
I would say the same thing. That my focus is mainly the two sides of the platform, the managers and the servers, and of course I'm involved with the innovation as well. I mean, right now our app is pretty basic, but we have some great ideas, and we are moving constantly towards innovation and development. That all takes time. I wish I could just snap my fingers and have everything what I want tomorrow. But that's not possible, but we're working towards it, so that's a constant goal.
Great. Well, do you have any closing words you want to say? I'll hand the mic back to you.
There you go. You know I wasn't planning on saying anything. You were supposed to do that. But yes, I will say something. It was really a pleasure to sit among you today. I really appreciate it. I hate to say words like articulate and intelligent and all those things, because, you know, we hate to hear that as women. I certainly do. But I enjoyed it. I learned so much from each one of you. I learned a lot from the audience as well, from the questions that you asked about capital and, you know, challenges. And just thank you all for being here. And I hope that you're open to continuing the conversation for those of us who want to engage, as you said, Asia, and not just be, you know, an observer among your followers, but people who want to have conversations with you to help you to continue to grow your businesses and to grow our own. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.